Welcome to the fifth class in sleep. Now we are going to see the theories of sleep. The theories. The theories of sleep. We don't directly jump to the theories of sleep. Instead, we first study the control mechanisms of your slow wave sleep. So in this topic we will cover all the proposed mechanisms. Actually the mechanisms can be classified into those older concepts and the newer concepts. So all this would be included here. We generalize all these into several mechanisms, and so we will see all the control mechanisms which can be divided broadly into the neural mechanisms on one side, and obviously on the other side we have the chemical mechanisms. So this is how you divide. In the neural mechanisms, you will find in the neural mechanism we have efferent, central and circadian mechanisms. So we have efferent mechanism, central mechanisms, and we have the circadian mechanisms. So three mechanisms: the efferent, the central and the circadian mechanisms. How do you understand the concept of efferent mechanisms? A perfect example would be the songs sung by your mother and the tap that you have felt when you were about to sleep. So usually you will find that all the mothers will do the same mechanisms to make their children asleep. They will just take them in their lap. They'll be constantly tapping them. So this tap would be scientifically should be around 10 hertz. Now it's not possible, but if it is around 10 hertz, the scientific theories suggest that there is chance for the child to sleep if the tap is monotonous. So the same hardness of tapping if you are making at a frequency of 10 hertz, which is repeating by itself, repeated. So if it is repeated, 10 hertz frequency taps monotonous repeated, you will have sleep, onset of sleep. So this is your efferent mechanism. Coming to your central mechanisms, we actually divide the areas of brain into three brain areas, which on appropriate stimulation will produce your NREM sleep. So which are those areas? So the first is the diencephalic area. The diencephalic area or the zone, we call this zone. So the diencephalic zone is the first zone, which includes which all areas? Yes, the posterior hypothalamus and the anterior thalamic nuclei. Anterior thalamic nuclei. All these are included in your diencephalic zone. The next zone, so this is the first zone. The next zone is your medullary zone. Medullary zone, which are the areas we have the reticular formation at the level of medulla. So it is the reticular formation. which is medullary. So medullary reticular formation is the nuclei which is involved in medullary zone. We will separately deal about this reticular formation as a separate class because you have a lot of things to learn in your reticular formation. So we will have a separate class on reticular formation. And the third would be the basal forebrain area or zone, and this includes your pre-optic area of hypothalamus. The pre-optic area of hypothalamus and the diagonal band of your Broca. So these are the three different zones and the central areas which actually trigger or play a neural control on your sleep. Now thirdly, you have the circadian area. So circadian area എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ we only have one area, and that is your suprachiasmatic nuclei, which is having that biological role doing this job. So it is none other than the suprachiasmatic nuclei. I hope you have read about all these things in hypothalamus about the importance of suprachiasmatic nucleus in control of circadian rhythm. You should have already guessed that it is the suprachiasmatic nucleus. If you have not guessed, it means that you have not properly studied hypothalamus. For those students who have guessed, it's okay for them, and you can make out that you are on the right track. So how do it influence? It influences by the retino. It's very important. Retino hypothalamic tract. I hope you have learned about this also. How the light that is outside will hit our retina, and a part of it is directly moving to the hypothalamus through this specific tract which is called the retinohypothalamic tract. So this tract actually helps you to control your sleep by knowing which is day, which is night. So hypothalamus has a direct access to the retina to know whether you are in daytime or night time. വളരെ simple ആയിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞാൽ, in a simple concept, that is how it is done. The hypothalamus is very easy for hypothalamus to know whether it is day or night from your retina because it has a direct access of your retinal activity, whether light is there or not there. So these are the neural mechanisms, the afferent, central and circadian mechanisms. Now let us come to the chemical mechanisms. I have dropped here something called chemical mechanisms. Let us try to learn all those chemical things which are actually making us and which are inhibiting us from sleep. So the first one would be your serotonin. What does serotonin do to sleep? It suppresses sleep. Suppress the sleep. So the serotoninergic projections from raphe nucleus. The serotoninergic projection. So if you draw here a raphe nucleus. I hope you know about raphe nucleus. Raphe nucleus has a connection which goes to thalamus and also to cortex high up. So this raphe nucleus projections, these projections which I have drawn in white, are actually They are actually serotonergic. That means the nerve endings here are going to release serotonin. And if this pathway is activated, that means what will happen to sleep? If this pathway is activated, more serotonin will go to the cortex and thalamus, and there will be suppression of sleep. So this has to be inhibited. This has to be inhibited for the sleep to occur. So sleep positive means, or increased sleep means, that this pathway is red. That means it is inhibited. And if you want to get awake state, if it is required, then the pathways should be activated. I hope this point is clear and crystal. Now we will come to the next chemical. Which is the next chemical? So this was the first chemical, serotonin. The second chemical is your non-epinephrine. I hope you know about non-epinephrine or noradrenaline, as you say. This is norepinephrine. This also has the same mechanism of suppressing, sorry for that, of suppressing sleep. This also suppresses sleep, but not in the same pathway. Here, the norepinephrine is secreted by cells in the locus ceruleus. So here we have locus ceruleus. The locus ceruleus has connections to down going to spinal cord and up going to your cortex. So these are noradrenergic. So these are noradrenergic pathways. And there, in the similar manner as said above, if there is more norepinephrine, there is suppression, and if it is less norepinephrine, there is if there is more epinephrine, that means there is suppression, and if there is less epinephrine, there is a progression of sleep or more sleep. The same way, but the pathway is different. Here the noradrenergic connections, the noradrenergic pathway is actually from locus ceruleus, starting from locus ceruleus. In case of serotonin, it is from epinephrine. So this is your norepinephrine. Coming to the next chemical, and the next chemical is none other than your acetylcholine. So the next chemical is your acetylcholine. So here acetylcholine actually promotes sleep. That means more acetylcholine, more sleep. The fibers projecting rostrally from dorsal pontine tegmentum as part of RAS. These are the fibers in which the acetylcholine is going to get released. So from the dorsal pontine tegmentum, the dorsal pontine tegmentum. From here, the fibers pass to downwards. This all those projections in dorsal pontine tegmentum is going to release your acetylcholine. And more acetylcholine means more sleep. Less acetylcholine means less sleep. So that is about your acetylcholine. And the next chemical is your adenosine. 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 Adenosine also promote sleep. Adenosine also promotes sleep. It's very obvious that most of students who learn during their university exams usually have coffee. Coffee is a usual ingredient during night, because all of us know that coffee is going to stimulate your brain and it is going to decrease sleep. How is it possible? Because coffee contains caffeine, and caffeine is actually an antagonist of adenosine. Antagonist of your adenosine. So in that case, less adenosine is going to be produced, and this is going to inhibit your sleep. That is how coffee intake is going to decrease your sleep. The last one, the last chemical to discuss in this group is your prostaglandins. The prostaglandins, PG. The prostaglandins. We have two prostaglandins in this group which are worth noting. One is the PGD2. So this is going to induce your NREM sleep by activity of the preoptic area. These are released in the preoptic area of the hypothalamus, and this is going to induce NREM sleep. At the same time, there is PGE2. This is going to decrease your NREM sleep. So both of these prostaglandins act oppositely. So these are the general control mechanisms that you can see in case of your sleep. So the general mechanisms, the control mechanisms in general. Now we have already covered almost all the sleep mechanisms, but just we will have a class on theories of sleep. So how do you theorize sleep then? So for the exam point of view, if you are going to write an exam, if you are asked about theories of sleep, how are you going to write about theories of sleep? So initially you will be writing a heading, theories of sleep. So first, the theories of sleep. So theories. The first theory we called the photostimulation theory. The photic stimulation theory. Already discussed. So in this, under the photic stimulation theory, or otherwise called retino-hypothalamic pathway circadian rhythm. So this is the thing that you are going to elaborate under the photic stimulation theory, the retinohypothalamic pathway, or in other words, the circadian mechanism, the neural circadian mechanism of induction of sleep. That is the first theory. So how does it work? You have to say that the center for circadian rhythm is the suprachiasmatic nucleus. First point would be suprachiasmatic nucleus is the center. Exposure to bright light during morning hours will actually will not allow us to sleep. At the same time, when the light goes off, you will have sleep onset. This theory does not stand true for, yes, obviously nocturnal organisms like owl, all those nocturnal organisms. This theory doesn't stand true. Now next theory where we have to elaborate is about the role of pineal gland. So this is a mechanism and a proposed theory for the onset of sleep. How does this work? See how does this work? So this works actually as an extension of the above said theory, that is your suprachiasmatic nucleus and the retinohypothalamic connections. So what happens here is we have the retinohypothalamic connection here. So retinohypothalamic connections. So these fibers, the retinohypothalamic fibers, are initially going to go via the preganglionic sympathetic fibers. Then they reach the superior cervical ganglion. From there, they are going to go via the postganglionic sympathetic fibers, where these postganglionic sympathetic fibers are going to release your norepinephrine. So norepinephrine is released at the postganglionic sympathetic fiber ending. Where are these ending? These are actually ending onto your, this is your pineal gland. So they are actually ending on the pineal gland. So the norepinephrine is going to act on the pineal gland. Now how does the norepinephrine act? The norepinephrine is going to get released, and which are acting on, what are these? These are the beta receptors. The beta receptors over the pineal gland, and they are going to increase the second messenger CAMP, and through this increased CAMP mechanism, what is going to get released from pineal gland is nothing but your melatonin. So melatonin is going to get released as a result of activation of pineal gland. What does melatonin do, or how? First, before going to this direction, we will just see what all mechanisms happens inside your pineal gland so that this melatonin is released. So that occurs by starting from the chemical serotonin. Serotonin which is inside the pineal gland. Serotonin which is inside the pineal gland is going to get converted into N-acetyl serotonin. This occurs by the help of the enzyme N-acetyl transferase. So N-acetyl transferase is going to convert serotonin into N-acetyl serotonin. Now this N-acetyl serotonin is going to get converted into your melatonin by the help of the enzyme hydroxyindole O-methyl transferase. Hydroxyindole O-methyl transferase. So this enzyme will be acting here and just converts the N-acetyl serotonin into your melatonin. So you have formation of melatonin, and there is a release of your melatonin. So the melatonin is released now. Now after the release of melatonin, this is going to act. Why is it going to act? This is going to go down, and this is going to act on the reticular activating system, and it is going to mediate sleep and wakefulness. How do they act? What is there in RAS? If this is your RAS, how is it going to act? We have two receptors here, two different receptors. One in red can be called as the ML1 receptors. So ML stands for melatonin. So ML1 receptors, melatonin 1 receptors, and we have another receptor which is called the ML2 receptor. ML2 receptor. So ML2 receptor is melatonin 2 receptors. Both are discussed here because both have different mechanism of action. The mechanism of action of ML1 receptor is by inhibition of CAMP mechanism. At the same time, ML2 is having the IP3 DAG mechanism. So this is how these two act. What is the significance of all these receptors? In pharmacology, when you're going to learn pharmacology, you will see that Ramelton is actually an agonist of all this. Ramelton is a drug. Ramelton is actually an agonist of all these receptors, ML1 and ML2. Okay, so that is your second theory, which is actually related to the role of pineal gland, which is actually coming as an extension of your same theory, the first theory that we have already discussed. So that is the second. Now coming to the next part, the third one is to know the role of your thalamocortical loop. What is the role of thalamocortical loop? The concept of thalamocortical loop. Role of thalamocortical loop. This is nothing but connections from thalamus to cortex and cortex back to thalamus. When I was teaching a class on thalamus, I was describing about these connections, thalamocortical connections and the corticothalamic connections. So this plays a very important role in your sleep. So this neural circuit between thalamus and cortex has been proposed as an important component of the pattern generation of the sleep-wake cycle. So this is an important part in the pattern generation of your sleep-wake cycle. That's the only thing you need to know about this. High frequency activity of thalamocortical loop means induced wakefulness. High frequency activity of the loop means wakefulness. Low frequency activity is sleep. So this is in very simple about the cortical thalamic loop. You need not go to all the details of the thalamocortical loop. You have to just remember this, that high frequency activity will cause induce wakefulness and low frequency activity is going to induce the sleep. So along with this, we can actually make a flow chart of all this. We have studied all the chemicals, everything will come in place. So, and it's also given in your textbooks. I will just draw this. The brainstem nuclei that are part of reticular activating system in one hand, and the hypothalamus with circadian rhythm on the other hand. So we'll discuss this like this. So first we have wakefulness here. So this is wakefulness. We have NREM sleep here in the flow chart, and here we have REM sleep. So we are going to discuss all the components which are coming to influence all this wakefulness, REM and NREM sleep. So we'll come from, first we'll come from above. From above let us come and see. So above I am going to show the brainstem nuclei. The brainstem nuclei. So here we have the brainstem nuclei that are part of the reticular activating system. So that is here. Don't confuse this, although we have already learned all these things. We are just making it a flow chart for better understanding. So here we have, if we have increase in norepinephrine and serotonin and a decreased acetylcholine, just say what is supposed to happen. Yes, supposed to happen is nothing but your wakefulness. We have already learned this, the chemicals. If you just pause the video, go back to the area where we were discussing the chemical influences, you will understand that an increased norepinephrine and serotonin and a decreased ACH is going to decrease sleep and produce wakefulness. I hope this is clear. On the other side, there is influence on REM sleep from here. So that is a decrease in norepinephrine and serotonin and an increased acetylcholine. So this is going to induce REM sleep. There is no influence from the reticular activating system on the NREM sleep. So that comes from below. That comes from the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus and with the circadian rhythm and all those homeostatic activity is going to influence wakefulness. How? There is a decrease in GABA, an increase in histamine will cause an activation. There is an increased activation of thalamus and cortex, and there will be wakefulness. On the other hand, the same hypothalamus will have a increased GABA activity and a decreased histaminic activity, thereby causing a decreased activation of thalamus and cortex. It is going to bring about your NRH. This is how both these mechanisms influence your wakefulness, NREM sleep and REM sleep. So that is in short about the different theories that you can come across when you are sleeping.